Jimmy Wanjigi is still here. He has had 60 minutes to think about the proverb. Now we'll hear his interpretation of the proverb from...
I'll tell you at the end.
Sauto?
I'll tell you at the end.
Sao Tome Principe.
That one.
Principe.
I'll tell you at the end.
Principe.
Let us go on these numbers.
Okay.
Jimmy's running away from his interpretation.
No. I want us to not get lost with these numbers.
We are not getting lost, Jimmy. We know.
CT.
We can chew gum and walk.
I want you to do...
Especially on a Tuesday morning.
I'm telling you. CT, I want you to take out your pen and your calculator.
Pen, okay. Pen.
CT still at pen.
Yeah, now I'm always at pen.
Yes. Now, as you know, the signatories to the exchequer account, the consolidated fund account in the central bank, are the Auditor General and his deputy. All right? Auditor General. Accountant General, sorry. Accountant General and his deputy.
Okay.
Banandungu and his deputy. Called Kilinda.
They are the signatories. Or they were, or they still are.
They are both still there.
Okay.
Those two officers are the signatories.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, so they purport to show us a series of letters transferring money from the special bond account, sovereign bond account, to the consolidated. To the consolidated fund account, 10,03967. So it starts 15th September. I'll tell you why it's purported. Yes. So 15th September, we have a letter provided.
September which year?
2014. Giving instructions to the central bank to transfer proceeds of sovereign account 10,212,764 to exchequer account 10,03987, and this is for an amount of 25 billion shillings. So please calculate 25.
Okay.
Same sort of instructions. 19th September 2014, 25 billion shillings. October 2014, 15 billion shillings. January 2015, 21st January 2015, 25 billion shillings. 16th March 2015, 25 billion shillings. Same instructions. 2nd June 2015, 30 billion shillings. And 26th June 2015, 17 billion 300 million, I guess. Yeah? So maybe you can do the sum of that.
The sum of that.
That is 162 billion.
162 billion. Right? Now, if you do the sum of the so-called transfer of money that came in September, equivalent cash shillings was 400 billion, 88 billion, 400 million. And the one from Citibank was 800 million. How much is that?
So that is 162.2 billion.
And the other one was what?
162.
And the other account was?
Which one?
What did you calculate from the letters?
The money, 162.
162.
So close.
Yes, very close. Give or take 400
so
billion.
The money from...
Now, all the instructions are from account 10,212,764.
Sovereign bond 1.
Sovereign bond 1.
Okay.
No, 10,000 sovereign bond 2.
Yes.
Okay.
8,000 is the one.
The one of Citibank.
Yes, yes.
So this is the Citibank top sales account.
It is actually the sum total of the so-called one from the one of September that went to 8,212, and the one of Citibank that came from that went to 10,212,74.
That's why you said purported.
Purported. You see,
did the money actually get transferred?
Yes. The Auditor General has put an account here. And you can't expect the Auditor General to be making typos or mistakes or numbers.
No, we can't.
He has specifically put an account here for the proceeds of almost $1 billion that came 10 September as 8,212,764.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
That is equivalent to, as you said, is 88, right?
Yes.
Now, The second one of Citibank is the one that is 10,212,764. But all the transfer letters
Are from
are
one
from
account.
10,212,764. There is no transfer here of 8,212,764. Yet the amounts are equivalent
To one another.
To the total.
to the total. Do you see the fraud?
So,
It's not
so
possible.
now,
So those are purported letters. That's all we can call them.
You're trying
Because
to,
why did it have to enter that account in the first place for you to then issue letters thereafter?
Jimmy, are you saying that the letters were cooked?
100% to cover up. Nothing else.
what did the Auditor General find?
Where is the transfer, swift transfer of that $1 billion that was in JP Morgan Stanley in September?
Because
We've never
if,
seen it.
Because if the money,
We have never seen it.
all right. Because
Where is the exchange rate confirmation?
Sorry,
We've never seen it.
Jimmy, I want to make a connection so that we can understand why then you would interrogate why there is no swift transfer. Because before we have seen that there's a transfer, albeit redacted, but at least you can see that there's money that has gone from here to here.
Yes.
Now, there's supporting documents and letters saying that money left and came, but you cannot see a transfer.
No.
Okay.
And you cannot see confirmation from central bank that they even received that money and exchanged it at a particular rate at the time.
Are they supposed
As
to?
was the same with the previous one of 300 or so billion,
Okay.
and the one thereafter of Citibank.
Are they required to do that?
Yes, it's like your bank.
Yeah.
How do you receive foreign exchange in your account, and they don't tell you what exchange rate they?
Because
they
here we are
exchange
looking for
that?
all kinds of
They
reasons.
always tell you.
Sure, but we're looking for all kinds of
They
reasons
always inform you.
as to why that
They
particular
always inform you.
documentation would not be there. Maybe
Correct.
somebody forgot to put it in.
Correct.
you
No,
know, kind
no,
of thing.
there's no forgetting here. And then number two, which is this account 8,000?
And what?
This is an Auditor General's report.
So what
It
does,
cannot
the,
have mistakes.
what does the Auditor General say about this?
At the end, the Auditor General says the following, and it is instructive that you read his conclusion and recommendation. He says he confirms the proceeds entered the country.
The $2 billion.
No, he does not confirm the amounts.
Oh,
He does not say the amount.
Said the proceeds.
The proceeds.
okay.
Does not say the amount. Then he says, noted that utilization of the proceeds of eurobond could not be traced to specific development projects.
Okay.
Now, our law is very clear. PFM,
Borrow for development.
you borrow in the medium term for development.
Okay.
Medium term is anything beyond 2 years.
Yeah.
So are we,
This was a 10-year loan.
wait, are we saying that that amount of money that was transferred to pay a debt that had been incurred in the Kibaki government then was illegal?
Yes. You cannot transfer like that. It should have come to the consolidated fund and then transferred. But it was actually an illegal debt. You cannot, there's nowhere where our laws allow you to borrow
To pay a
to
debt.
pay a debt. There's nowhere in our laws. There's nowhere in our laws where you're allowed to do that.
Okay, so,
So it was illegal.
Okay.
It was illegal in its transfer. It was illegal in its acquisition.
in acquisition
Purpose.
in the first place.
The-
Yes.
So
Wait,
these
wait,
things-
wait.
And that means
Let him finish.
that it was not in the budget.
Okay.
Okay.
So now he goes on to say the National Treasury explained that these funds are fungible,
What does that mean?
exchangeable, exchangeable.
Fungible.
Fungible, fungible is English.
Yes, it's English.
Spell
It's not
that.
Portuguese.
Fungible.
Like
These
you can-
are his words.
You can funge something up.
You can punch something up.
What does that mean?
Exactly that. You can funge it.
You can,
Come on
the
now.
Treasury creates its own rules.
Meaning you can fake it.
You can fake it. Correct.
Till you make it.
So if I'm faking, I'm funging.
Exactly.
I think these things are fungible.
Fungible.
Fungible. These are
The
his words.
Treasury
Edward Okoh.
explained. The Treasury explained that these funds were.
Funged.
Were fungible.
Okay, go on. Finish the
Right.
sentence.
Furthermore, as identified in this report, some of the funds were expended outside of the government FMS system.
Okay.
No, please explain. What do you mean, okay?
Not okay.
It can't be okay.
When he says okay,
No,
How are they
I'm saying,
extended?
I'm saying
saying carry
okay.
on.
Go
he's
on.
not saying it is okay. He's saying, okay, I've heard you. Continue.
Go on.
That's what he means, yes.
He therefore recommends that subsequent issuance of international sovereign bonds be earmarked and be identified to specific development projects.
Exactly.
Now, this was the first one of 2.8. The government, previous government, Uhuru government, took a total of $7 billion eurobond.
Huh?
7 billion.
In that tenure,
Yes.
In the 9 years.
Yes. 7 billion.
they took 7
We
billion.
are just talking about 2.8 here. They took
All right.
7 billion.
There's another 4.2 somewhere,
Yes.
which they also took. All right.
All right.
Where did it go?
It definitely was not earmarked for any specific development project.
Can we see where it went? Because, like I keep saying,
No, it's like in the air.
$7
It
billion.
means it did not even enter. We don't even know whether it entered the consolidated fund.
And this is my question that I wanted to then ask.
Yes.
Because money just doesn't disappear.
It never does.
It never does.
Do you know where we see it?
People move it.
Do you know where we
and
see
there's
it?
a trace of this money. And like I keep saying, if you put billions somewhere, you will see it.
What happens?
So is there a trace of where this money went?
What there is a trace of in the records of government is the payment of those loans, but not the receipt.
So
Not the receipt.
So the payment of the loans are what are
Or the
indicative
disbursement.
of what? Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
From the consolidated fund, you see the payments. We are paying heavily.
Okay.
Interest,
But is there?
high interest. And
Do we have any trace of this additional, say, 4.2 billion ever coming into the country?
And now 4.2 without the tap sales. There was also tap sales.
Those are top sales.
There was also tap sales.
Does the consolidated fund register receipt of these monies?
No. Where?
Okay. So
Where? For what purpose?
So this was a special.
For what purpose?
And I'm just asking because
It does not.
I'm going to go to sovereign bonds accounts. These ones also don't register the receipt of this money.
No. For what purpose?
okay.
Right.
So
You see, there have to be a purpose in the budget.
Of
They
course.
don't exist.
Yeah. You talk about now monies that you actually see in this same documentation in terms of repayment for loans, right? That's what you said. You don't see where the money came, but you can suddenly see that there is money that is being paid back.
Yes.
To whom is it being paid back to, and what does the narrative say about what it was for? Because I would assume, unless I'm naive in my thinking, that when you're paying it back, it would say for development, this, that. the
No, it
other.
does not say
It
that.
doesn't say that.
No,
Does
it's
it
not
talk-
on the budget.
All right. Does it talk about who the money is going back to?
Yes.
Okay. Who does it go to?
It goes to the people that purportedly gave us the loan.
Okay.
All right? Now, that is the big question. Now, what we have here with these external loans is that you have that bracket of eurobonds, and then you have something called syndicated loans,
Yeah.
which are also to the extent of $7.2 billion. All right? Taken within the same time that you cannot trace in the budget.
Jimmy,
Yes.
we are going to take a break.
It's necessary.
Yeah. So there's one special audit report, right? This was Edward Okoh did an audit of this specific Eurobond 1. Senor, now you'll tell us, since then, the Office of the Auditor General has obviously audited our accounts. Okay. Whether we have similar audit reports.
Correct.
You've told us about this specific Eurobond 1 of 2014. 2 billion plus some top sales of 8.8 billion.
Correct.
So 2.8 billion.
Dollars, take note.
In dollars. And
All
whether it
these
came in.
figures are in dollars.
The then Auditor General, Edward Okoh, did a special audit of this particular one, and we've seen what he found. Since then, you've said the Uhuru 1 and 2 governments borrowed a total of 7 billion
Eurobonds.
Eurobonds.
Dollars.
Just the $7 billion.
And they took another 7 billion plus in what are called syndicated loans.
So you're talking 14.
14
Aye, okay. So,
million.
did Edward
Billion
Okoh-
dollars. Please
did,
take note.
Did Edward Okoh and his successor do audits of
No,
these
this one specifically on the first Eurobond was because there was a lot of noise at the time.
Political
and this was a special audit done by him. It was even tabled by the majority leader at the time. I think it was Aden Duale in Parliament.
Yes.
But you've seen his comments at the end.
Yes. It was fungible.
It was fungible.
Well done.
Now, Eric, we did our audit. Now, a forensic audit is based on primarily looking for fraud. So you attach the law to any action in terms of money, right? So you look at the law, what does it say about debt? When can a country take debt? When can we take debt and how much can we take debt for? So our laws are very clear. We can only take debt for development in the medium to long term.
Yep.
If we have cash flow problems, right, we can only take a certain percentage. In fact, they say 5% of the last audited accounts, tax returns.
Yep.
So like this year, if you collected 2.2 trillion, you can only take 100 billion cash flow, which must be paid within the same year. And normally they say you can do, in fact, it's clear there, an overdraft at CBK.
Right.
Right? But any other debt must go towards a project, a development project.
Yes.
Okay.
That is in the budget. All right? Now,
So the project must be provided for in the budget.
in the budget, and in fact, in the budget, the debt is actually shown. Anything outside of that is illegal.
Okay.
Now, just to give you a synopsis, because this is very tragic, people need to understand why they are being told to raise taxes. It's because there's a monster in the room, right?
Yeah.
And it is this payment of this debt. It is the monster. There's no other monster. Just to give you a historical analysis, when Moi handed over power to Kibaki, of every 100 shillings of tax revenue, only 28 was going to the payment of debt. And at the time, Moi had a tax revenue of 170 billion shillings.
170 billion
170 billion.
is what we are all paying.
Yeah, is what we're all paying. In 2001, that was the situation.
Right.
When Kibaki handed over to Uhuru Kenyatta, Kibaki had raised revenue to 1 trillion shillings from 170 by expanding the economy, not by raising tax levels, but expanding the economy, removing barriers to growth. And of every 100 shillings of that tax revenue, 18 was going to the payment of debt. So he had reduced it. When Uhuru handed over to William Samoei Ruto, and please, I would like to take note that Ruto was part of that government anyway.
Okay.
Tax revenue had increased to 2 trillion.
From 1.2 into
From 1 trillion of Kibaki in 2013
Yep.
to 2023 to 2 trillion. Right? So it had gone double. But of every 100 shillings of tax revenue, 70 was going
To that.
to debt.
From 18.
You saw William Ruto earlier this year even confirmed that.
Yep.
But he tried to get out of my 100 shilling analogy and making it 10 shillings.
Okay.
But he said the same thing. 7 shillings is going to,
Debt.
of every 10 going to debt. Today, as we are talking, from the numbers I've seen from KRA yesterday, KRA are saying they've collected 500 billion in 1 month. I think, to me, that's like fantasy. Right? In the month of June, they've collected 500 billion. I think it's like fantasy. They've been collecting about 165 to 170, let's say 170 average per month. But now they collected 500, fine. So they went to 2.4. If you look at debt payments, they're 1.866. So it's roughly 78% today of every 100, 78 shillings of every 100 shillings is going to the payment of debt. In other words, it's getting higher and higher.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Now, when you have that situation, you got to understand that you're now borrowing to eat. You're borrowing to pay salaries. You're borrowing to pay petrol for vehicles of police. Right?
Yep.
You are borrowing for counties. Okay?
Yep.
So you are in big trouble.
Okay.
So the reason he is trying to raise tax is to cover that problem. And now he's unable to do it. Okay? He's unable to do it. Now, he decides he's going to set up a task force because of this public pressure. I think the one thing the president should understand is that he does not have much credibility, right, with the public. And he cannot purport to do anything right now on his own. Decide he's picking names, he's deciding on which way. I'm sorry. If he does not understand that right now is a moment of consultation and wide consultation, he does not have the monopoly. He has had that free will all this time, and he has sent us into a bigger ditch. He does not have the luxury to decide on his own. He must consult. And it seems something that's prevalent with this regime. Every time they do something, it is being contested in court. It's like they don't seek legal advice properly. There seems to be some problem within. So he should not have done a task force. I have done that audit. What he should do is take from what has probably happened in the past, call a judicial commission of inquiry, make it public, like the Goldenberg one, and talk about it being public debt forensic audit. All right? Have a secretariat that includes the Auditor General. And let us all go and present to that judicial inquiry. Given a time frame of maybe a month or two, we can finish this thing. It's very simple. There's nothing hard about this thing. You just look at the law and see what was passed. So, for example, in the last 10 years, the years that we had done the audit under the Uhuru regime, all right? The budget only approved 2 trillion for loans. All right?
Cumulatively.
Cumulatively, in the 2 terms of Uhuru. Right? He took
2 trillion in shillings.
in shillings.
Okay.
Yes, 2. No, it's good
Yes,
to be clear.
important.
It's very important.
2 trillion.
Kenya shillings.
But outside of the budget, and it says you can only borrow what is in the budget. That is in the Constitution and it's in PFM. But they borrowed 6.4 trillion, which means over 4 trillion above what was approved. In other words, was not on the budget. So you ask yourself, what is going on here? All right?
Okay.
This current government, in the last 1 year, the borrowings that are on the budget are 351 billion shillings. Foreign and external loans. William Samoei Ruto has gone to borrow 1.8. All right? Which is roughly 1.5 trillion above what is in the budget. Who gave him that permission? Who gave the Treasury that permission? And anything you do not do that is lawful means that you are doing criminality. You're doing criminality. And I said very clearly here. And you can question me till the cows come home. That is criminality.
And so
And I just want to add, just to give you an overview, summary. You borrow for what is described as the deficit, the difference between expenditure and your income of taxation.
you're projected.
Your projected, not your projected deficit.
Yeah.
But your projected deficit must be in line with the law, which is that projected deficit can only be in development. It can't be amorphous at, I need to pay a loan, so I just go and borrow. There's nothing like that.
Unajua stima inaweza panda.
Hakuna kitu kama hiyo kwa laws of Kenya. So we did what you call, and the IMF is very good at doing this, what you call a primary balance, which means that you look at the expenditure of a nation, of a government, without debt payments. So we did a primary balance from year July 2013 all the way to June 2023, 10 years. What was the development expenditure? 6 trillion. 6 trillion, they were only going to borrow 2 trillion for that development, by the way, in those years. So 6 trillion. Higher. You take a county, how much was it? Salaries of all government.
Yep.
Pensions. what you call operations and management costs. It came to 14.6 trillion. That is an exact number. Higher. Then you say, what has KRA
So
said
14.6 trillion
in 10 years?
for
Those are
development.
expenses.
All expenses.
All expenses of government.
Recurrent
So,
plus
no. Recurrent plus development.
development.
Correct. Recurrent plus
Development.
development. Without payment of
Debt.
debt.
Okay.
So you remove the payment of debt. It's called primary balance.
Okay.
All right? It comes to 14.6 trillion. Then you say, what were the actual tax revenues from KRA?
At the close of every financial year.
At the close of every financial year, so from July 2023 all the way to July 2013, all the way to June 2023, 10 years.
Yeah.
They came to 13.3 trillion.
KRA.
KRA.
Okay.
That is tax revenue.
Tax revenue.
Yes. So what is the difference there?
1 point something trillion.
1.3 trillion. Correct?
Yes.
1.3 trillion.
Yes.
So if we needed to borrow
That was our deficit.
to run our...
For 10 years,
okay.
1.3
3 trillion.
What we are saying, William Ruto has borrowed in this last 1 year outside of the budget.
Is the deficit?
Is the deficit for 10 years. Now, what did we borrow in those 10 years? 7.7 trillion. Are we together?
We are.
So we borrowed 6.4 trillion above what we needed,
For what?
which is a deficit for the next 10 years. 6.4 trillion we did not need, is not lawful. We do not owe because it's not lawful and never came to us. They cannot show us what that money did.
Okay.
On any budget, they cannot show us.
JIMI.
And that is what you now call odious debt. Now, we are paying heavily for this that never came to our benefit. And in Mozambique, citizens went to the court of justice on something similar to our eurobond. They called theirs a tuna bond that had been provided by big banks such as Credit Suisse and RVM Bank of Russia. Right? The defendants were the government and even parliament. And their laws are not even as good as ours. Public finance laws are not as good as ours. And they won the case.
Who?
That $2 billion, the citizens won. $2 billion is odious debt.
You go and pay it.
You go and pay it. And Credit Suisse were forced to eat humble pie with RVM and even return money that had been paid for those loans. We have a similar situation, but we are talking about 6+ trillion. But I say that is what was taken outside of the law. Nobody is looking at how much we have paid.
Over time.
Now, during the period of the first audit, which ended in July 2022, we had paid loan repayments of 5.6 trillion. I want you to do your sum. Again, CT. 5.6 trillion. Those were repayments of loans from our taxes. Kazi mingi. Higher. In the year 2022 to 2023, we paid another 1.4. How much is that? 7.
Yep.
Yes.
This year, we have paid
1.8.
1.8. How much is that?
8.8.
Right. And the government is still telling you you owe 11 trillion.
Wololo.
You know, really.
That is
Yes,
19.
it's never coming down. It's always increasing. In fact, the only reason they are saying it's coming down is because of exchange rate. We have a better exchange rate.
Yeah, but-
okay, but
You remember we had a bad
so
exchange rate
so
not
you
very
tell
long
me,
ago.
you're correct, and it's going to get there. I think you saw the credit rating of Moody's. Have you seen it?
Yeah,
This morning,
It's not good.
it has gone to C, AA.
It is not good.
And remember, we said when you hit C, you're heading for default.
Kwisha wewe.
Kwisha wewe. So you're going to see that exchange rate completely change. Now, so we have paid 8.8. 6 we never took for our benefit.
But this is in
And then-
interest and principal.
Interest and principal. Correct. 8.8.
Uh-huh.
6 we never took. 6.4, in fact, exactly, we never took. Was never to our benefit. It's not on our laws. Okay? And we are being told we still owe 11. Do you know, this is what you call a massive Ponzi scheme. And this Ponzi scheme is our chain. Do it is our chain. It is our slavery chain, our modern day slavery chain. And until we yank it off, you're going to see no change in this country but pain. And you yank it off this way.
Okay, there we go.
You yank it off this way. What is not in our laws is what is called odious debt. And that we have paid to odious debt, we demand back. And if we analyze that, that means we have no debt. And without debt, that means you can free up the taxpayer from paying debt. You can reduce taxation, but you also avail something very interesting, which is domestic money for us to go and take. Right? Nobody, there's no law item that says domestic debt is funding anything in development. These bonds and bills, it does not exist. Bonds, which are long-term, have not funded any development project in our budget. We don't know why our banks, and soon we are going to call them out, why our banks are giving our money to our government for bonds that do not exist in the budget. And then our taxes are going to pay those exorbitant interest rates.
Back to the banks.
Back to the banks.
And not
This
coming
is
back.
a Ponzi scheme of some banks here, and they better stop it. They better stop it. They have created oligarchs of themselves at our expense, and they better stop it. Their time is now coming to an end. They better stop it.
Okay. Jimmy, I want to ask a series of questions. Number one, you've given us the primary balance and you calculated it. I said the World Bank is fond of doing this. Have any of our institutions done a primary balance?
Any of our institutions?
Yeah.
Yes, Treasury does so continuously to IMF.
Does it reflect the same thing?
Well, do they publicize it? They don't publicize it to us.
So we don't know.
We don't know.
Okay.
But it's something that is required by IMF consistently. So they know this. What I'm sure they do not say, right, is exactly what that deficit is.
Okay.
I think you saw there, the Auditor General says that they talk about funds being fungible. So we don't know how much fungibility they put in those figures. It seems fungible is a word that is commonplace
can be
by the National
Can
Treasury.
be replaced.
Yes, can be replaced.
Pun intended.
Pun
Now,
intended.
second question. Our Auditor General, over the years of presenting audit reports to Parliament, has the Office of the Auditor General flagged this debt that is taken outside of the law?
Unfortunately, the Auditor General, even though in their terms of reference, they have a forensic audit mandate, and they have done so in various things. For example, they did so on the Mafia House scandal. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
They did.
Yes.
They did.
They did a forensic audit on the Mafia House scandal. So they have never done so on the debt. Never. They do this general audit, but not a forensic.
Not forensic, but
Not forensic audit.
But
The other office is the COB.
control of budget.
The COB has a very clear mandate. In the Constitution, Article 228(4), the controller of budget shall oversee the implementation of the budgets of the national and county governments by authorizing withdrawal from public funds under Articles 204, 206, 207. Now, that means that the overall budget she oversees
Yes.
and must give approval for. Now, if she's giving approval for funds to be withdrawn from the consolidated bank fund to pay a debt, it must be clear what that debt did on the budget at some time in history.
Yeah.
And if it isn't, she should not be approving it.
Okay.
So she's also highly responsible here.
Have the controller of
And
budget
culpable.
reports ever raised those issues?
Well, I think you have had them on their show, on your show here.
Reports to Parliament indicating that I declined to authorize this payment, or I authorized this payment with this condition, and the condition was later met or was not met.
I think you've seen various reports over the last year and a half to 2 years on incidences, and you've seen them both escape on the issue of, we don't have transparency on the debt register, and we don't have this, and we are seeing some things and we don't see some things. I think you've had them maybe even here on the show. But at the end of the day, any payment out of consolidated fund, and that I can tell you all debt payments are being done from consolidated fund, have had the approval of the COB.
Okay.
And how did they have that approval when they could not be attached to any budget?
A budget.
Many of them to a budget.
And a project.
Yes.
Question number, I think, 4 now. We have seen the response on the letter from the Law Society of Kenya, and even from others who have made public commentary since the establishment of the task force by the president, have said this is the job of the Office of the Auditor General to audit all our accounts. Do you agree?
It is, as I said, her terms of reference are a forensic audit, but it has never happened. I think this situation is now out of hand.
Okay.
And I think it is beyond the Auditor General. It is beyond William Samoei Ruto. That's why I'm saying it is now a public clamor for open justice. That's why we want a judicial inquiry.
Okay.
Where we can all go and participate, and we all hear and see. And we all debate. And we bring everybody. Some of these accusations I'm making here, I would love them to be in front of the camera answering these questions. I would even love being the one who's questioning them. Right? It is beyond those offices because they do not have credibility.
Okay.
Why has the Auditor General not done it?
Sure. So
and let me advise the president. Do not think you're just going to pick if this is the route that you end up taking. Your stooges to sit on that bench.
Can I ask you, JIMI,
it must be consultative. There's no cover up here. Right? There must be a consensus in this country that this thing which is paining us and destroying generations to come, we're actually attempting to start dealing with it.
I have to ask, JIMI, because Kenya is highly litigious. We know this. I mean, even this task force thing was stopped at court. So people will go to court really quickly to stop. This is something that has been going on for years. And from what you're saying, that to have an open inquiry is
a judicial
one is what would make sense. Why? That going to court, do you think that going to court with this evidence is not sufficient in terms of getting an answer?
It's not sufficient because you have to collect the evidence. The Goldenberg judicial inquiry is a very good example, right? Here you had 3 judges led by, I think it was Justice Bosire.
Yes.
Who had a lot of credibility. And they called up evidence. All right? You had joint secretaries. They called up evidence. Right? And it was public. You were questioned. All right? A lot of settlements were gotten out of that, including Patney having to say, in a sense, that he had made some messes and is giving up this hotel.
Grand Regency.
Grand Regency.
Yeah.
So it was open. We all heard what exactly happened, right? And action was taken. This is a similar situation. And I can tell you, this one I doubt will be questioned in court, right? It's a judicial inquiry. In fact, the Bosire one had, I think, Bosire, I can't remember the second. I think only one was a retired. I think there was Lapelli, a lawyer. And I think I can't remember the third judge, right? Who was a member, in fact, of the judiciary at the time. So this is something the president has power to do, but as I'm saying here, he must not think he can do so unilaterally. It must be consultative. We must generally feel that it is a credible judicial commission of inquiry. It has credible people, and its terms of reference
must be clear.
Including a short term to complete. Because this is not difficult. The books are all there. The record is all there. It's not difficult.
It sounds like it would have to be corporate in terms of people coming together.
Yes. I would even want to be summoned. I will appear with my forensic auditors. Okay? We did this in about 4 months or so. All right? 4 to 5 months. Right? And that was, we had to search for the data. Okay? Which was available, is publicly available. So this can be complete as an exercise within maybe 3 months, and have a report. This is what is odious, should be suspended, right? This is what we've paid, and I can tell you at the end of it, judging from what we have already done, because this is the first forensic audit on debt, judging from what we have done, the Kenyans do not owe anybody any money. In fact, we're looking for refund. And those that we owe, that refund from those illegal parties we gave will go to paying them.
Okay.
That's how serious it is.
Okay. So the Busia Commission of Inquiry had 3 members. Chairman was the Honorable Justice Richard Samuel Bosire. The vice chairman was Nzamba Kitonga.
Yes.
The late Nzamba Kitonga. And the commissioner was Peter Lepele.
Okay.
Right? Those 3.
Yes.
And they came up with a report. They handed it over to the president with various recommendations.
And I think you had joint secretaries and all that.
You had joint secretaries in the
So you had a
secretariat.
prosecution. I think you had a private prosecutor.
Yeah.
In that.
Yeah.
Almost
I
like a
remember
private
people
prosecutor.
Like Waweru Gatonye
Correct.
and others
Correct.
were in this.
Were in this.
What would we expect to get out of such a process?
That process
What do
would
you expect to
define.
be the outputs?
Oh, it would be very clear. It would define what is called odious. Odious meaning that any debt that was not taken within our laws, right, or has been paid outside of our laws as debt that is illegal to us. Any debt that was taken that did not come to us in any manner or form will be declared illegal. And the culprits will be recommended for charges. Now, if you do that, I can assure you, we have no debt.
Okay.
And we are freed from this monster that is eating 80% today of our tax revenue. The single biggest monster to our tax revenue is one item called debt. 80%, 80 shillings of every 100 it is eating up.
Okay. Once a debt is declared as odious, then what?
Oh, then we are freed. And in fact, wherever we have paid odious debt, we ask for it back. And that's now another process. But we are freed. You imagine, this last year we have paid 1.866 to debt. At that we are freed of that amount. We are paying a similar amount coming this year. We are freed of paying that. My friend, imagine what can happen in terms of development in Kenya.
Absolutely.
What miracle can we not have here? To do a level 6 hospital is about 10 billion. You put one in every county. You imagine the amount of roads. To do 10,000 kilometers of road would mean what?
You'll pay all your
Nobody here will not need this free housing, this housing fund nonsense. Right? People here will never even live in mud huts. Right? And the stimulus it will create, the catalyst it will create to this economy. You will see this jobless, unemployed.
Okay.
You will be amazed with the figure.
So now show me the difference between a judicial commission of inquiry that has a judge or 2 and a task force that has been set up that has the members that we've seen.
Does that
What's
task
the
force, in legal terms, I think I will not compete with what the LSK has said.
LSK has basically argued that the function of auditing belongs to the office of the Auditor General,
Yes.
as established in the
That is
Constitution.
one. I think the other, with what he established, is that he called it a forensic task force.
Yes.
And none of the parties there is a forensic auditor. None of those parties are forensic auditors. I will not even say any of those parties are experts in what is called public finance management. Nancy Onyango is very well reputed in the IMF, but she has never done public finance management here in Kenya. She may be a very good economist. Public finance management. She's actually a monetarist. She has not done public finance management. And there is no forensic auditor in that team.
They can be co-opted by the Secretariat.
No. Where is that terms of reference? If you see the terms of reference in the Gazette notice, there is no such opening. None. No such opening. That to me, in fact, was done either shoddily or part of cover-up.
Okay.
So it has. Let's put it this way: its credibility already now is in doubt. So he should dispense with it.
But then,
I don't even know why they need to continue with the court battle. He should just revoke that Gazette notice.
how would you...
and come back and say we have a tried and tested method called a judicial commission of inquiry, right? And even seek some consultation on its membership and its terms of reference. There are enough people he can consult with. And you come up with something very credible that we can all buy into. And it must be public, because this is about public money. We all want to go and make submissions. We all want to hear others making submissions.
One nagging argument, if we just take the letter and the statement by the Law Society of Kenya, will still stand.
The Auditor General
The
can be
job-
part of that secretariat.
The Constitution
She
does
can-
not say that the Auditor General
A judicial commission of
participates
inquiry.
in another.
A judicial
commission.
commission of inquiry is a different entity. Is a different entity.
Yes.
And-
She can be told to do her own forensic audit and submit. JIMI Wanjigi will come with his.
Your reference point was the Goldenberg, the Busire
Yes.
Commission. If you looked at the recommendations that they made, the number of people who were censured, the number of people who were prevented from traveling because they had been seen to be complicit, people who were, their guilt was recommended. As I said, it was comprehensive. That the only thing is that not whatever was expected to have been done was not quite done.
Yeah, buana.
But one knew who the players were, something that had never happened before. One knew who had done what. Because by the time Kanyotu's name was coming out,
Yes.
that
was a name nobody ever used to mention.
No,
Yes.
people didn't mention it.
So Jimmy,
Look at it this way, CT. That was the beginning. Today, with the amount of transparency, everyone will be exposed. And literally, the recommended charges will end up seeing people
In jail.
in jail.
our time is up, Jimmy. Thank you very much for joining us. So your call is a judicial commission of inquiry to do a forensic audit of our debts, declare any debt that's outside of the law odious, and recommend that we don't repay it.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Jimmy Wanjigi has been our guest. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.